Hey guys, it's Sarah. I'm finally on here recording my vlog about my first RE appointment. I didn't do it over the weekend, but that's only because we were just really enjoying ourselves after our appointment Friday, and we just relaxed and enjoyed each other's company, and we didn't have anything to do. That's how you know you're getting old, is when you look forward to the weekends where you have nothing to do. Okay, so for us, and I believe for most people, the first RE appointment is basically a consultation. So just 90 minutes of talking. Our doctor, we both instantly really liked. She was extremely kind, like very nearly like Southern hospitality kind, just completely outgoing. I told her how I was sorry that we were late because there's just various traffic between Illinois and Missouri and lane closures. So there was traffic, and then we went to the wrong building. So over in St. Louis, this group, it's attached to a hospital and doctor's offices galore. And we had been there for my husband's last urology appointment a while back, and it was in a totally different building. So we went back to the same building thinking that's where we were supposed to go. If you saw my last vlog, you know that I lost our paperwork. I'm almost starting to wonder if we ever received it. It just seems really weird that it just totally disappeared, but let's not get off topic. So we finally found our way there. And the good news is it's way easier to get to, so future appointments will be nice. Okay, so we sit down and she discusses very briefly what she read in our existing medical records. And she says, we're fairly certain we know what the issue is due to your husband's semen analysis. So we've got the, very low sperm count and low motility. She said anything less than 1 million is low, and we're less than 200,000. But it's not zero, it's not nothing. We're not to the point where they have to perform any sort of surgery on him to go in and physically extract sperm. However, the count is low enough that she wants him to bank now. Bank some sperm now to be frozen. She said, unfortunately, she has seen cases with low count where, the couple know that they have to do IVF with ICSI, and on the day of fertilization, like egg retrieval day, he produces nothing. So just to reduce stress, she said she really wants him to bank now, and he can bank more than one time, whatever we're willing to basically pay for. It's roughly $700 each time. But it reduces your stress on that day, extenuating circumstances might just happen. Apparently, I had my blood drawn back in January, and I vaguely remember this. The only reason it doesn't really stick out in my mind too strongly is all I heard come out of her mouth. By her, I mean my OBGYN who ordered the blood work. When she told me that my progesterone level was normal, meaning that I do ovulate, because that blood test was, it was not during like a round of Clomid or anything. So it was high enough just on my own naturally that she's was able to verify that I ovulate on my own. However, there were other results that she didn't go over, and I think that's really just because in her hands were my blood work and my husband's semen analysis. So the consultation with my OB where we first received the semen analysis results, the conversation basically just turned to his results. So flash forward to this past Friday, the RE decides, I'd really like to talk about your blood work more in depth. She said, everything came back normal except for one thing. And I'm smiling because of how many of you that are watching this that have already heard this. My thyroid was not where they want it to be. So she said for any normal, adult person, male or female, I'm within a normal range, meaning I'm not hypo nor hyperthyroid. But if I'm a woman trying to conceive, I'm not in the ideal range. They would like to see 2 or lower from my blood work. And I was so shocked. Which is, it's ignorant, I can't believe I was so shocked. I guess I just assumed everything would be fine. And, I think about it, my dad has thyroid issues. His mom had thyroid issues, and his sister has thyroid issues. And I know for a fact that my grandmother and my aunt were on Synthroid. Well, guess who's going on? Ding! Let's just keep this family tradition going. So the first thing we have to do is put me on Synthroid to get my thyroid levels under control. And I hope some of you can help me understand this. My mom seems to think that the number they give you based on your blood results is negatively correlated to the activity of your thyroid gland. What I mean by that is the higher the number, the less active your thyroid is. Is that true? I don't know. So if I was leaning one way or the other, I'm leaning toward hypo, meaning low active, thyroid gland. There were several other things, obviously, that she wanted to check. So she ordered a whole bunch of blood work, just a whole slew of it. So I gave two vials of blood after our meeting was over. There was one hormone that they don't test there. And I can only assume that it's because they have just a contract, with another lab. Maybe it's cheaper to do it that way. But they don't test the AMH levels. So now I have basically a script to go to like a Quest Diagnostics. It's just a lab around here to give another vial of blood so they can check that. Then she wants me to schedule an SHG. SHG. So that's, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes if I keep looking away. It's the saline hysterosonogram, where they basically, with a catheter, fill the uterus with saline solution, which is, salt water. And they take a look at your uterus with an ultrasound, a sonogram. So my first question to her is, okay, why do you want to see me do the SHG instead of the HSG? So many acronyms in our lives, huh? So, as you may know, the HSG is the hysterosalpingogram. Oh, if I got that right, I get a gold star because I don't have Google open right now and I didn't write it down. But my OB, when I first started telling her that, we're really having problems, we've been trying for a year and a half, she said, well, let's do an HSG on you. However, when my husband's SA results came back, she canceled it. She didn't feel that it was necessary because she wanted to refer us on to a urologist. So my RE's response to my question, why this versus this, is she says, unless you know that there's going to be an issue with the man's sperm, it's very normal to prescribe an HSG because it's looking for something different. The HSG, that's the dye test, by the way. It's looking at the shape of your uterus and whether or not your fallopian tubes are open. So a good HSG would show the dye filling your uterus, having a normal, inverted triangle shape, and then the dye would flow through your squiggly little fallopian tube and then spill into your uterine cavity. The SHG, the saline test, it is not a dye. It shows different information, so it's looking for something different. Knowing that my tubes are useless, they're not useless. Knowing that we are not going to utilize my tubes because we know we're doing IVF with ICSI. I probably should have said that first. She absolutely verified that, yes, you guys are IVF with ICSI candidates. Since we are going in for an egg retrieval and then doing the ICSI, the intracytoplasmic sperm injection, where they just inject the sperm directly into the egg, we don't really care if I have a blockage in my tube. Don't really care. But what is important to her is my uterine lining and the actual muscle of the uterus. And she said she can get more information about my lining and the muscles through the SHG. She recognizes that a lot of the stress with IVF is simply getting to your appointment and then, missing work. So she said, I can schedule the SHG on the same day as our orientation. We have to do a 4-hour orientation where we learn all about the process and the medications, and we learn how to do injections. So the thing is that I didn't hear this. Thank God my husband was there. They only do the orientation on Thursdays. So although it would be convenient to knock out the SHG and the orientation on the same day, I don't know if that's going to work out. Because as you may or may not know, you do the SHG after your period has ended, but before you ovulate. And for me, that's tough to fit into my work schedule. She asked if I was still taking prenatals, and I said, no. No, because it's like almost as soon as they told me that we would pretty much never get pregnant on our own, I just quit taking those stupid things because they make me constipated like crazy. And I said, now that we're at this point, I will take them, I promise. I've been slacking. And she was like, no, let's address this. Let's talk about constipation. She said, I can also prescribe you a prenatal. It has more than twice as much folic acid as an over-the-counter. I believe she said there were, over-the-counter would be like 400 and a prescription would be 1,000. And I don't know the units on that, and I don't have the bottle here. Milligrams? Who knows? Micrograms? So I'm going to get that prescription filled. And in the meantime, my mom is the sweetest lady. She asked if she could help us out in any way. And I said, yeah. Get me any one of the things that the doctor told me I was allowed to take for the constipation. So forgive me while I flip open a notebook here that they gave us. So safe to take during pregnancy are Colace, Metamucil capsules, or Miralax. And then she told me that you can also take milk of magnesia if you're like really, really desperate. But she said to only take it if you're desperate because it can make things go the opposite direction. And that just sounds terrible. Um, as she went over everything, because she explained everything from your brain and pituitary gland to your ovaries and how everything communicates. And she explained, mostly for my husband's benefit, how IVF, in her words, hijacks that process. And she literally drew the brain and the pituitary gland, and it was awesome. You can tell she does this all the time. So, she made some sort of comment about how I'm fairly knowledgeable already. And so I told her that I'm a member of the YouTube community and I follow women's stories as they go through IVF. And she was really glad about that. To her, that was making her job easier, and she likes people to be as informed as possible. And I said, I mentioned how one of my favorite things to watch, this is going to sound weird, is when people give themselves injections, because I am such a chicken. For some reason, I feel like I'm going to be a big baby about it. And so I like to watch people who are very strong. Two people that come to mind are Shandy. Her name is Brandy. And then Daniela. And her channel name is Falking Around IVF. Is it? It's just Falking Around. Falking around. You are so good at taking your injections. You have made it look like no big deal. And then, of course, Brandy, she records all of her injections and then plays them all in a row and gives, a very encouraging thumbs up, while she's giving her injections to herself. So I said, there's only one thing in the YouTube community that has a bad rep, and that is progesterone in oil. And her face. Well, that's our favorite way. That's our favorite way to administer progesterone. I'm so sorry. This is going to be a long video, and I'm so tired. I hope I'm not boring the shit out of you. But, so this is fun. Spontaneous pregnancy, or a spontaneous conception. So in other words, people who do not struggle with infertility. What happens in your ovary is that, more than one follicle tries to mature, one becomes dominant and bursts, and your egg is released from that dominant follicle. What is left behind, the part that bursts open, that follicle, is then called the corpus luteum. Now, I've heard that a million times, but for some reason, I never knew that it stayed in your ovary. So it stays in your ovary, and it starts releasing progesterone. That's the very first release of progesterone. Sperm meets egg in the fallopian tube. They travel together down to the uterus, and they implant. And eventually, the corpus luteum can quit because I don't know what stage it is. Maybe the zygote stage? I don't know, but when it implants, it'll start producing its own progesterone. With IVF, you will not have that bursting, so you won't have a corpus luteum. Therefore, you're not making progesterone in the first few weeks. It can take up to 6 to 8 weeks before the corpus luteum can stop. So that's why you have to supplement with progesterone. They really like progesterone in oil because it is very effective. So it is intramuscular, and I'm going to make my husband do it for me. And she said I could do it either in my thigh, thinking of Daniela, or, in the upper buttocks area. Not looking forward to that. She said if I do have a bad reaction to the oil, that there is more than one oil that it can be suspended in, and so they can try another one. Lastly, I don't know if I'm missing anything. I'm so tired. But lastly, we talked about the cost. On average, the cost is $11,000 at their clinic. That does not include ICSI, and that does not include, well, here, I've got the sheet right here. What am I doing? Oh, it doesn't include medications, your injectables, and it doesn't include ICSI, and it doesn't include banking. So with everything, she said we could expect, you know, 3,000 to 4,000 for the medications. ICSI is an additional $1,400. Cryopreservation has different fees. Freezing his bank sample is roughly $700. Freezing embryos is roughly $700. Or you can get a package deal where you freeze both for $1,200. So she said she'd be very surprised if we didn't have any coverage at all, because that's the impression that we've been under. Knowing that we live in Illinois, she doesn't want us to settle for paying for everything out of pocket. Illinois is one of the best states in the United States for requiring some sort of coverage for infertility treatment. And she said, you know, if you absolutely can't find anything through my husband's employer, because I work in Missouri, then go to the Illinois Insurance Exchange. And she gave us one exchange in particular that she had heard about from her patients, and it was called Land of Lincoln. So we need to look into that still. I was a little bombarded by info that day, and my head was spinning a little bit, so I haven't jumped in quite yet. I'm on cycle day 4 right now, which means if I'm going to do the HSG, I should probably do it next week. And my husband is ready to just get going, and so he's ready to like take off work Thursday, not tomorrow, but the following Thursday, to go to orientation. He wants to get going. He's so, oh my gosh. Okay, I know this is a long video, but too freaking bad. The change in him. I don't know how to say this, because I don't want to give the impression that he hasn't always been a good husband, or that he hasn't always been caring and attentive, but we have always been very independent as a couple. You know, sometimes he even cooks dinner for himself, and I'm left having to fend for myself. We always do our own laundry. And even like our weekend plans sometimes don't include each other. This just doesn't sound right. But ever since, I don't know how much you've seen of my vlogs, but ever since we found out about his low sperm count, the first friend to come up pregnant really, really upset him. And I was shocked. You know, he's kind of been so nonchalant the whole time we've been trying. So now he is just like happy all the time. And so am I. And he's very attentive. And I know this is a little thing, but it used to be when I would call him on the cell phone, he would answer, "Hey." And now it's like, "Hey, what's going on?" You know, it's just the change in the tone of his voice and how he seems excited to hear from me. And he's excited to take off work. to go with me to these appointments. And he's just been, I don't know, he's just been amazing. Let's see. Oh, let's talk about multiples. So they asked us, well, she said, you guys are a great age. You are both healthy. My official medical recommendation is that you only transfer one embryo. However, I will allow you to transfer two, but you have to be fully aware that it is a very high probability that, or likelihood, I shouldn't say probability. There is a very strong likelihood that you would end up with twins. There are some doctors, she said, in her group who would not allow us to transfer two. But they say that they're getting to where they leave that up to the patient more and more. Now, she says you need to be aware that we can transfer two, and one of them splits. And she showed us their statistics, and last year they had 11 sets of triplets. Bear in mind, some of those are from transferring 3 embryos. You know, they allow you to transfer more the older the woman becomes. And she said, now I'm going to tell you this, that we could transfer 2 and they both split. But the chances of that are so insignificant, so low. She said, however, I feel that I need to tell you that it's not outside the realm of possibility. So it's like they want to scare you because the goal is one healthy baby. That is not my goal. My goal is twins. When I was a little girl, I told my mom and dad I wanted twins. I never talked about getting married. I had some little dolls called the Hart family, H-A-R-T, and they had little twin babies, and ever since I was a little girl, I wanted twins. Just never thought I would get them. Bright side of infertility, is that the new video topic? Then she asked a really good question, because he and I have talked about everything, every step of the way, except for this. She said, okay, you know, hopefully we have lots of eggs, and lots of them fertilize, and we have lots of good quality embryos. We will freeze any extra that you don't transfer. But what are you going to do with your frozen embryos if you get twins and you're done? You have 3 options. You can discard them. You may donate them for research, or you may donate them to other couples who are struggling. And we didn't have to answer her right then and there, but basically we got out in the hallway after the appointment and we were like, we're not throwing them away, my gosh. And he said that he would like to either donate them to research or donate them to another couple. And the more and more I think about it, I just want to donate them to another couple. Yeah. It doesn't bother me to think that somebody would have that embryo, and so there would be our biological child walking around in the world. Doesn't bother me. Makes me feel very good. Okay, obviously I'm exhausted. I'm talking way too much. So there it is. There's my first RE appointment, and I will update you guys again soon. I love you. I hope you're doing well. Baby dust.